Hey everyone, it's Sarah from Scifi, and today I'm doing another book chat where I'm talking about some sci-fi and fantasy books. So I will be talking about one fantasy, one sci-fi, and another fantasy. So it's kind of like, I figure YA and sci-fi, not YA, sci-fi and fantasy a lot of times are grouped together in bookstores, so it's just easier for me to do book chats if I have a closer range where I don't have enough sci-fi or enough fantasy where I can kind of place them together. So today let me put this down because I will be swinging that all the time. I'm such a hand talker, I can't help it. So the first book that I'm talking about was a book that I listened to on audio. And this was kind of like it was a reread for me, and it was like a decision-making one of, do I keep this book or do I officially let it go? So the first book that I'm going to talk about is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. So I have the original first edition, you guys. I bought this book when it first came out. I pre-ordered it through Doubleday's book club that my mom was a part of when I was little. And we would get the newsletters with the catalogs, and I had seen this on Amazon right when I was starting to look up books and kind of see what I was interested in, and this was recommended because it hadn't come out yet, but it was projected to be one of the best fantasy novels ever. And when I was little, I was all about YA paranormal, and this was a great love story between magicians, so I was like, yes, I want it. And look at this cover, it's fabulous, you guys, fabulous. The first time I read it, I was in 6th grade, so I was about 12 years old, maybe 11 I think actually, and completely just, this book was not for me, you guys. It was an okay read for me, but half of the content went over my head. I didn't understand it. I didn't like it. I mean, I'm pretty smart for the age that I was, but this novel was, I think, a little too sophisticated for me at the time to fully appreciate it. And I knew that. I was well aware of it. And as I got older, I was like, this is a novel that I want to revisit. So I decided to listen to the audiobook because my library had it. It's narrated by James Fry, I think, or Frey. He's a fantastic audiobook narrator. Seriously, if you're going to read this book, don't read it physically, listen to it, because his audio is just, it's peaceful, but it's so striking and visual. It's also kind of creepy depending on the voice that he's portraying, and his just melodic descriptions of the night circus, oh, it's beautiful. And my experience this time around taught me that this is a good novel. I gave this novel 4.75 stars, which is a huge leap from what I originally given it, which I think was a 3, maybe 2-star rating. So this is one of those books that I definitely needed to grow as a reader to appreciate, because, when you're a kid, you're not always going to understand everything you read. Your mind's not cognitively there yet, and my mind is still not cognitively there yet, because I think I have 3 more years left before my brain is officially done growing. But still, I feel like my opinion is more solid on a 4.75 rating than what I would have said about this book years ago. The reason I don't give it a full 5 stars is it's so slow. And there's a middle section where nothing happens, and most people are like, oh. But I just love the characters, and I love the whimsy of it. And I don't care about the romance between Celia and Marco. Marco's a jerk. I'm not really a fan of him, but I love the character development of all the characters, and the interconnected web, and the obsession with people, and the manipulation tactics between people, and the magic. It's so cool. So yeah, I don't want to spoil this. You should kind of go into this blind, I think, or at this point you already know what it's about. But it's a good novel. It's not a solid high fantasy novel, so don't go in expecting this magic world building development. These magicians don't do that. They barely do any magic at all. It's more of an illusion, I would say, than real magic. So yeah, I give that one a solid 4.75 stars. And then the next book that I'm going to talk about, I don't have to hold up anymore. I would have been like swinging that book around, but I got rid of it in my book on haul, and I've already donated it and sold it to my local Books A Million. So this novel is These Broken Stars by Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner. This is the only sci-fi novel that I'll be talking about in this video. Whew. I do not like this novel. I gave it 1.25 stars, and that's because the beginning for me had promise. I really was interested in the political dialogue and the political deconstruction that was going on. I'm really fascinated when novels are almost slightly satirical and picking and prodding at the way that government systems work. And I was fascinated by the way that the government system worked on this ship. And it was interesting. It was usually done in Tarver's point of view. Lilac was she's not by any means an idiot or an airhead, but she doesn't offer much commentary outside of her, I have to keep this secret. I can never be in love with another man who is poor. They would forsaken me. It's just too much. And then like when the ship blows up and they get on this planet, they should be surviving. And they do. They do look for their means of survival, but they also look at each other and they're like, hey girl, I like you. And he's like, yeah, let me get it. And she's like, no, you can't get it. Okay, yes, you can. And that's the whole novel. They're not worried about these monsters that could eat them. They're not worried about what these weird creatures are on this island. And then there's like this huge plot at the end where I was like, okay, I've already been forced to listen to this cringeworthy audiobook sex in a YA sci-fi, and now I have to listen to this trope. I'm not against this trope, but I'm not always for it. And it's such a cheap ploy. Like, if you're gonna go and do it, don't back out of the trope and go, okay, this is how it is now. Happily ever after. I don't want a happily ever after. If you're gonna go all in, stay going all in. Don't pull out because you're scared. Don't go there in the first place if you're not gonna deliver. That's just how I feel about that trope. I don't want to say what the trope is because obviously major spoilers, but yeah, These Broken Stars, no, broken book for me. 1.25 stars. I have a full-length review for it. I'll link that down below. And then the last book that I'm talking about is a YA fantasy novel that came out near the end of 2018. It is called Salt by Hannah Moskowitz. I got an arc of this. It is a very interesting little book. It's not long by any means. It follows a young boy whose family has recently, his parents have recently gone missing, and they're presumed dead by his older sister and the 2 other siblings that he has. There are monsters in the waters, and they are sea hunters. So like, think Supernatural on water. They're basically seafaring pirates who kill monsters. It's pretty cool. The plot is really cool. The writing is not too bad. The characters, they have their moments, but I wanted more, and I think that this novel has a lot going for it. It's just not fleshed out enough. Like, it needed more time to really get into the meat of the story, and it just went, and then we were done, and I was like, okay, like, that's it, like, this is it. And you can tell pretty much, like, with shorter novels if they're going to be fantastic or if they're going to be middle of the road. And this one's not a middle of the road, it's slightly above that because the plot really delivers it, but it could have been better. So because of that, I give Salt 3.25 stars. So out of these 3 sci-fi and fantasy novels, I am giving my recommendation to The Night Circus. I never thought I'd say that. I always was like, that'd probably be like my least advocated for book. But out of these 3, it's obviously the highest rated at 4.75 stars. So have you read any of these books? Do you plan to? What medium do you prefer when it comes to reading sci-fi and fantasy, listening or reading physically? I want to have a discussion about that. So yeah, don't forget to subscribe and comment down below your thoughts. Bye and happy reading!